Whoops.
Wow.
Kick down the equipment here.
Broke everything.
All right, so let's see. That can come down a little. All right. So last time we did the tax, and what we're going to do is review each one of these policies, starting from home base. So what do I mean by home base?
You mean the supply and demand X that we got going on there?
Yes, the supply and demand X. Yes. So anybody want to add to that? Equilibrium in what type of setting?
Free market.
Free market, yes. So if we just kind of leave things alone, our prediction would be that the market would come to rest at an equilibrium price of 4. This up a little bit. There we go. All right. So an equilibrium price of 4 and an equilibrium quantity of whatever this amount is in here. And just to kind of motivate things again, let's just say it's 1,000 units.
1,000 units of what?
So $4 and 1,000 units. Good question. 1,000 units of what? What do we want to be today?
Pickles.
Pickles.
Why pickles?
Corbin doesn't get to choose anymore.
All
Why
right.
not?
Corbin, you are out of choices from
Because I've had such good choices.
I agree. We gotta have other participation. We'll go
Like,
round
we could
robin
be like
here and see what we
dinosaurs or
find out.
something, you know? Something cool.
Okay, so we started off with the tax, and so what your notes should show here is implementing a tax. If we take our tax wedge, the edge of the wedge is this vertical distance, and the top part of the wedge touches the demand curve telling you the price that consumers pay. And the bottom part of the wedge touches the supply curve telling you the price that producers receive. And then we did our analysis downstairs here. The change in consumer surplus, we lost area B and C for consumers. Okay, we lost B and C. Producers lost F and G. But the government gained tax revenue of B and F. This is just kind of a quick review of what we did last time. So that area there represents the government revenue, which is now a plus sign, plus E plus F. And so in analyzing the overall effects for society, we sum together all three of these. And this is where we got minus B plus B, those cancel out, plus F, minus C, minus G. And we have a special name for that. When society loses, we have a dead weight loss. A DWL, dead weight loss. So society loses. Why do we call it that? Because had the government not intervened into this particular market anyway, society was enjoying A, B, C, F, G, J. It was enjoying this whole big triangle, and now it's got this trapezoid that's smaller. So there was a loss to society, and we call that a deadweight loss. All right, questions on that? All right, subsidy. So now let's just say that hypothetically the government gives away $2 for each unit. Subsidy we did in class in the notes, that's going to enter in from the right, so our little tax wedge fellow is going to come in here, get wedged in, and that's going to be shown by this vertical height here. You guys can't see these colors as good, but I actually got this in green. So there's a green line here, and the top part of the subsidy wedge touches the supply curve telling you the price that the producer receives. The bottom part touches the demand curve telling you the price that the consumer pays. So they're paying less for education, less for the price of pickles. Thank you, Corbin. And after the subsidy, the quantity goes up to QS. Let's call it, 1,200 units. I forgot to identify the QT over here. You didn't have that drawn in. The quantity after the tax, let's say, dropped to 800 units. All right, so this is all what we did in class last time. That's kind of a review. What is the change in consumer surplus? Oh, who we got on today? Name?
Jason.
Jason. Jason D, huh? So what is the change in consumer surplus? And again, remember to go back to the free market. So the consumers had ABC. We're not going back to the tax situation. We're going back to the free market of ABC. So now what is the change in consumer surplus? I mean, you can do it a couple different ways. You can think about what's the new one and then compare that to the old. Ultimately, I want just the change.
F, G, H, I.
F, G, H, and I. Okay? Everybody agree with that? F, G, H, and I. So the difference between what we're willing to pay and what we actually pay for each unit consumed is our definition for consumer surplus. Here's my technique that I recommend you do. Starting from left to right, you ask yourself the question, how much is a person willing to pay for this unit? They're willing to pay this amount. What do they actually pay? $3. Willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual, all the way up to 1,200 units. Willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual. So this big triangle here represents the new consumer surplus. It used to be ABC, so the consumers are picking up F, G, H, and I. So good. Plus F, plus G, plus H, plus I. How about those producers? Difference between what the price they're actually getting and the minimum amount they must get for each unit sold. BCD, good. Okay? So again, free market is FGJ, this triangle. Now they're getting $5 PP, the price after the subsidy, and they're selling 1,200 units, so they've picked up BCD, plus B, plus C, plus D. Government. Change in government revenue.
That E.
E. Okay. BF. Okay, I'm sounding good, but you're a little short. B, F, and E, I'd probably agree with that, but you're a little short. Keep going.
E, F, C, G, D, H, L, E.
Okay, hold on, I need a golf club here. B, go ahead, say that again. B, F.
C, G, D, H, L.
Ooh, all of it, huh? Why is that? It's that box. Yeah. So the subsidy is the $2 per unit, right? So the difference between 5 and 3, the vertical height here is the amount of the subsidy. For how many units? 1,200. Area of this rectangle gives us the amount of government spending. So I think if I heard you right, you correctly said a negative B, negative F, negative G. Somebody said negative, maybe it wasn't you, Rachel, but I thought I heard somebody starting to go negative, because they're spending money, not collecting money. So, downstairs in our matrix, we want to go minus B, minus C, minus D, minus E, minus F, minus G, minus H, minus I. It's getting kind of crowded down there. And now the fun part, we got to cancel out and add up what the net change for society is. Let's see, we got plus B minus B, plus C minus C, plus D minus D, plus F minus F, plus G minus G, plus H minus H, plus I minus I, minus E. Everybody see that? So upstairs on our graph, we've got this triangular region, which coincidentally looks kind of close, doesn't it, to our minus C minus G, which was this area over here. All right, questions on that? All right, price ceiling, how does that work? We've got a price ceiling of $3. $3. What's going to happen? What do you remember from doing a price ceiling? It's a price control. Government says prices cannot go above the price ceiling, right? Creates a shortage. So, at the ceiling price now of $3, people want to buy 1,200 units, but there's only 800 available, causing that shortage. Okay, hold on, let's get that down first. So let's draw the price ceiling in here. So we're kind of mixing a bunch of policies, but there's a method to my, or there's a reason for my madness here. So let's say that's the ceiling price. And we already identified there's going to be a shortage. So what is the change in consumer surplus? The change, again from the free market now, ABC, what is the change in consumer surplus?
It'd be the same as the subsidy, wouldn't it?
Same as the subsidy. What do you think of that?
Yes.
Yes? I say no.
Wouldn't it be all?
Yeah, plus F plus G plus H plus I.
How are you getting that? F, G, H, and I, how are you getting that?
The difference in what consumers pay versus what they're willing to pay. Oh, wait.
Wrong.
You can't. Okay, I see the problem now.
Because you forgot the most important part that I told you
That
guys to
there's a
always
shortage.
do religiously as you go through it, and you're the one who even brought up the shortage business.
I see what I did wrong.
So the difference between what you're willing to pay and what you actually pay, that's where you went wrong. There's more to that story. The difference between what you're willing to pay and what you actually pay for each unit consumed. How many units are being consumed?
Only 800.
Only 800. So starting from left to right, willing to pay, actually pay. Willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual, willing, actual. No more to consume. There's only 800 out here. So we started with ABC, and now we're left with ABF
Plus F minus C.
plus F minus C. Plus F minus C. Alright, so let's see here. Plus F minus C. How about them producers? How are they feeling about this thing? Producer surplus. Difference between the price that they actually get and the minimum amount they need to get for each unit sold.
lost F and G.
Alright, they lost F and G. So they're left with J. They're only getting $3 because by law that's the highest price that they can get. And they're selling 800. We already identified that. So starting from left to right, the difference between what they're actually getting and the minimum. Actual minimum, actual minimum, actual minimum. You're left with J. You lost F and G. Minus F, minus G. How's the government doing on this deal? Change in government revenue.
Isn't everything above the ceiling?
Everything above the ceiling, the government's now getting? No.
But to the left of 800.
To the left of 800, no.
They're not taxing. We're not including taxes in that.
There's no tax, there's no subsidy, there's no money. All it is a law that says prices can't go above $3. Sorry folks, that's it, that's the law. So the change in government revenue is zippo. There's no effect on government revenue. So it's not positive or negative, it's just a big old fat 0. And now we add them all up. Plus F, minus C, minus G. Another deadweight loss. Alright, price floor. Now I have price floor without government expenditure, which I'll explain in a minute. So we'll just kind of ignore that for now. Let's just do a regular old price floor of $5. So now prices can't fall below $5. We're trying to help the pickle producers in this case, right? So
It's hard work making pickles.
the price floor creates the ceiling created a shortage. The price floor creates a surplus. Good. So a surplus of these 400 units. So at $5, the quantity demanded is only 800. Pickle farmers are going to be supplying 1,200 units. So the price floor looks something like, we'll do a fat blue here. See if I can do this. Oh, I do have a blue pen. So if the price floor comes in here at $5, what is the change in consumer surplus? Losing B and C. So they used to have A, B, C, and now they're only going to have A. So minus B, minus C. How about them producers? Be careful.
Because they're putting out a lot more, but they're only going to sell 800 of it.
Okay, they're only going to sell 800. So we're only going to count the units that they sell. What's that? Second? Because that's all that's demanded. So people at a price of $5, consumers are only going to buy 800. And they don't have anybody else, so they're going to sit on the shelves. It's going to create a surplus of unsold product, unsold pickles, if there's a price floor at $5. Because the demand curve's here, telling us the prices people are willing and able to pay at various prices, and that was just at $5, they're willing and able to pay 800.
I guess I'm confused because we previously said that as a
Back, well, now I'm glad you bring that up. We're going back to a free market each time. So I know I'm layering a bunch of stuff over the top of this, but each time we're referencing back to the free market, which was 1,000. So we had A, B, C was the consumers. Now consumers are only buying 800, so their area shrunk to area A, because they're only buying 800. Now we're talking about producers, the change in producer surplus. They're only selling 800. So what is the change in producer surplus?
Minus G plus B.
Minus G plus B. Good. So it's that trapezoid. So they used to have FGJ again, but now that the price floor is in place, the difference between what they're actually getting paid, which is $5, and the minimum. Actual, minimum, actual, minimum, actual, minimum, actual, minimum. actual minimum, right here. So they picked up B, but they lost G. So plus B minus G. How much revenue is the government collecting on this policy?
So
0. Another big Zippo. Add them up. Minus C minus G. Okay, now the next ones we start to get a little creative on. So this is based on a real life story in the United States. In the 1970s, the government, in all its wisdom, said, I want to help out those poor farmers, the pickle farmers maybe, but there was all kinds of other farmers. And so let's just say that prices can't fall below $5. And then they're like, whoopsie, there's a whole bunch of corn. It was really strongly related to corn. So there was a whole bunch of corn left over, the surplus of corn, and they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Now we got all this corn. I meant to help you farmers. I didn't mean to hurt you by having unsold corn. So I know what we'll do. We'll buy it from you. We'll buy it. Since people are sick and tired of that much corn, we'll buy the surplus. So this next column is a real life story based on what the government did back then, and that was to buy the surplus. So what this is price floor equal to $5 with government expenditure rather than without it. So the government's going to buy the surplus pickles in this case.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a look here at our matrix. So the setup of it's just like this price floor. Change in producer surplus with that policy. Now this is relative to a free market again. Is there any change to the consumers?
No.
No. So they still lose B and lose C. Okay? Because we're going back to comparing this policy to the free market. Producer surplus. Producer surplus. Again, free market, they were at FGJ.
Don't they get like BCD now?
BCD? Anything else? No? So difference between what they're willing to pay, or the price they actually get and the minimum. They actually get 5, they actually actual minimum. We stopped here before, but now they're still getting 5, it's just the government. Do they really care if they sell it to the government or they sell it to the consumers? No. So it's still the same story now. Actual minimum, actual minimum, actual minimum, actual minimum. So BCD is what they picked up. So plus B plus C plus D relative to the free market is what the producers now picked up. Plus B plus C plus D. All right, now government revenue. Okay, I like that. You're right. There's going to be minuses. We got some minuses. Minus what?
CGD.
CGD.
What would it just be?
Just D. Okay, let's stop playing puzzle with the graph and start playing brain. How much money is the government spending on the pickles? $5 a pop for how many?
Anything past 8.
The difference between 800?
400. $5 a pop for 400 pickles. Now go back to your puzzle and tell me what they're spending.
Would be everything from.
Start labeling them off.
So it'd be.
Give me some letters.
CGDHILM.
Almost.
E.
And E. You left off E. So yes, the area of this rectangle is $5 high, and they're buying 400 units. So start squeezing all that into our matrix. Government spending is minus B, oops, sorry, not minus B, minus C, minus D, minus E, minus G, minus H, minus I, minus minus L minus M. Now, add all those babies up, and we get plus C minus C, plus B minus B, plus D minus D, oh my, minus C minus E, minus G, minus H, minus I, minus L, minus M. Pretty big dead weight loss. Now, back to real life for a moment. What do you think the government did with the corn? They bought a whole bunch of corn from the producers. What do you think they did it
Making
with?
oil out of it.
Feeding it to who? Soldiers. Might be an idea, but there's so much of it. They were kind of sick of feed corn at that point, I think.
So making it ethanol.
Yeah. Now, this was back in the 70s, long before that innovation came along. So they bought it and they said, okay, well, what are we going to do with it now? Can they sell it at a discount?
That would be cheap.
That would be kind of breaking their own law, right? So that's not possible. They can't dump it on the market and sell it. It's a global market, so I can't even sell it around the world. So they put it in a silo and said, oh, let's worry about it later. So they stored huge volumes of corn. And then next year came along and they said, let's worry about it next year. Next year, all the corn rotted and went to waste. Great example of dead weight loss, a complete waste of society's resources. That was what happened to that corn. It was purchased and rotted away, just holding it. On top of it, using the storage, they probably built new buildings to store the doggone stuff, would be my guess. I don't know that for sure. All right, so some economists back in the 70s, I'm not sure who to give this credit to, said, you know, there's got to be something better than that program. That program kind of sucks. I think you don't have to be an economist to figure out that that's pretty stupid use of resources. So that's our last program over here called the target price. How many of you have heard of deficiency payments? Farming related, does that ring a bell? I don't know if we have any farmers here. When I taught at Iowa State, I always had a big handful of farmers with a class of 250 students, and so usually I'd see a few hands go up. All right, so this is a common program in agriculture, and so it's also referred to as a deficiency program, deficiency payment. So here's how that system works. We're going to look at the program here and say, all right, we're trying to help the farmers out at $5. So let's set a target price of $5 and say, farmers, you go ahead, and pickle producers, you go and make as much as you want, knowing that you're going to get $5 for your amount produced. All right, so which is kind of what went on with the other thing for that matter. But this time what we're going to do is we're going to allow the market to buy all of the corn that was made, or all the pickles that were made. So we're going to allow the farmers to produce all that they want, and then we're going to sell all that's on the market to consumers. How much are consumers willing to pay for that amount? $3. Okay, so if we start to track this thing through, the target price is going to be $5. Farmers are going to produce 1,200 units, the quantity supplied. That amount's going to be dumped on the market and allowed to be purchased at the highest price people are willing and able to pay for it, which is $3, which establishes the market price. The target price is up here. The market price is down here. The government's going to make up the deficiency with that amount. The difference between the target price and the market price is the deficiency. All right, I'm going to write out those steps. I kind of wish I had a board right here, but I'm going to have to travel off to the west here. I want you guys to sit down and try to figure this out. But let's make sure we got all the steps. So, target price. Number one, government sets the target price. Let's call that PT. And we're going to just put the target price equal to $5 for this problem. Step number two, producers supply all that they want. Producers set the quantity supplied, knowing they will get PT, target price. Step number three, consumers purchase the quantity supplied. In this case, I'll just put in our number here, 1,200. Consumers purchase the quantity supplied at the highest price they are willing to pay. And so we're going to call this the market price, PM, and using the numbers that we've got on the overhead, that's $3. They're willing to pay $3 for 1,200 units. And then step number four is the government making up the difference. Government pays producers a deficiency payment. A deficiency payment equal to the target price minus the market price, which in this case is $5 minus $3 gives us $2.
After market price equals PM, what's that? Is it $3?
3, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Right here. This one or this one?
Oh, that one there, yeah.
Both of them are 3. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Turn to your neighbor and fill in the chart. Fill in that last column.
Yeah.
Okay, so the target price.
I'm going to add a little bit up here just in the form of the target price and market price. So.
So what is the target price?
We got PT, C10 is down here.
Probably be the same.
Running consumer surplus. Would producer surplus be the same since they're selling it normally? The only thing that would be different would be the government.
So starting from a free market, ABC, just like we've been doing the whole time, starting from a free market, probably the first step would be to think about the new consumer surplus, and then you can insert the change in consumer surplus. Okay. Difference between what they're willing to pay and what they actually pay for each unit they consume. How many units are they consuming? 1,200. Good. So do consumer surplus first. Oh, you already did that. FG, yeah, this looks good. What are you guys doing here? What are you stuck
I feel
on?
like it was two
Kickstarter.
because we're going back to.
So ABC is the old consumer surplus. Now they're paying how much? How much are consumers paying? $3. And how much are they consuming? How many units? 1,200. So the new consumer surplus is this big triangle. So the change in consumer surplus. So then those are entered as a positive sign, right? FGH and I, yeah, put the pluses in there, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's probably a good idea. I'm just going to warn people that. FGH and I, good.
Right on this demand.
Jumped out of producer. So with producers, they are selling all that they have. They used to have FGJ, and now they're selling at $5. Right? They're getting 5 at the end of the day.
This triangle right here. So then we probably be
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
right? Because now they have.
FGH looks good.
Because they're getting.
UCD, okay, that looks good.
This is how much they need to produce, and this is how much they're
All right,
asking.
I'll put
Asking
that
the government to fulfill that. So it's this triangle right here.
Alright, looks like most of you are getting that FGH and I. Where are you guys at? Okay, FGH and I, good. And you're working on producer BCD. Alright, looks like most of you got the producer and consumer, and now we've got that government situation to figure out. So again, consumers are paying $3, so they're picking up FGH and I, plus F plus G plus H plus I. Producers are picking up B, C, and D because they used to have FGJ, and now they're selling all of those at 5 ultimately, plus B plus C plus D. So this policy sounds too good to be true, for starters, but the change in revenue, what is the government spending on this thing?
So the government.
And maybe we go away from the puzzle piece and go back to our brains. How much are they spending? $2 on 1,200 units. So that whole rectangle is the amount of government spending. Minus B, minus C, minus D, minus E, minus F, minus G, minus H, minus I.
Minus E.
Minus E, did I forget E? Okay. So that whole rectangle, the area of that rectangle ends up being the amount of government spending going on. So minus B, minus C, minus D, minus E, minus F, minus G, minus H, minus I. Alright, now the fun part, add them all up here. Plus B, plus C, plus D, minus D, plus F, minus G, plus H, minus I, plus I. Add them all up and we get?
Minus E.
Minus E. Ah, wasn't expecting that one.
But I don't understand why they're buying 1,200 if consumers are buying at the price that they would buy, the amount that they would buy. So they would be buying, we're going back to market equilibrium.
No, we're not going back to market. Well, I don't know what you mean exactly by market equilibrium, but we're going to allow the consumers to.
Back to home base, right?
In referencing this to home base, yes. The policy is referenced back to home base in terms of the change in consumer and producer surplus.
Right, so there's,
I should do Broncos.
1,000 units, $3, right?
No,
So it's not.
they're going to buy.
Say yes, yes I do.
So the policy is they're going to buy all 1,200 units because producers are producing all that they want, which is 1,200, and then consumers are going to pay the highest price they're willing and able to pay for those 1,200 units, which is $3. So the consumer surplus is this whole area. All right, we can go over it after class here. I want to get this last few concepts down. So, now we start to see maybe some usefulness of this. I mean, quite honestly, estimating consumer surplus and producer surplus is a bit of a economic art. It's certainly up for discretion. But we do have some nice inferences here on policy between this column and this column. Which one's better? Which one's a better policy?
Between which column?
These last two.
The one on the right.
The one on the right. How do you know that, though? If you had to prove it to a legislator, how are we using economics to prove that it's better?
Dead weight.
The dead weight, what about it?
There's less
There's less. How do you know that for sure?
because there's just a minus E.
The E and the E are both in this, right? So there's always something negative being added on to this one. So we know for sure that it's worse. Now, the intent of the policy, though, was to help who? Farmers. What, aren't they going to complain about it?
No,
Why?
they're,
How do you
They're
know
getting
that?
more money.
they're getting the same amount.
They're getting the same amount, right? So they're indifferent between these two policies. They're not losing anything. Only society is gaining here overall. So we've set up a situation that farmers are not made any worse off, and consumers are made better off, right? So it wasn't at the expense of farmers. So this is how policy can be, or this is how this can be used for using it in policy measures, because we've shown that it's a Pareto superior move in terms of we can make at least one person better off without making anybody else worse off. That's a pretty good deal. It's kind of like a no-brainer, right? You had to, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. What does that mean? Everybody benefits, or at least nobody else is hurt by it. So this is kind of a no-brainer in econ. All right. What else do you see about the whole thing here? Look at the whole thing and look at some similarities. Which two columns look awfully close to each other? Subsidy, target price. So, for this particular set of numbers, we get the same results. But the two policies are different from each other. Does anybody see how they'd be different? This is a tough question, but kind of important.
Is it the quantity that's produced?
No. The quantity ended up being the same, 1,200. Quantity purchased was 1,200 also with the subsidy. So no difference there.
Our excuse for paying the farmers.
Actually, we're kind of saying one policy is farmers, we're going to give you $2, produce as much as you want. The other policy says farmers, we're going to give you the difference between the target price and the market price. Under these set of numbers, it happened to be $2. A little bit of a hint. What happens over time as the market evolves? Suppose that something crazy like they figured out how to run cars on corn. Just imagine that. I know it's crazy, but just imagine that they can run cars on corn and there's an increase in the demand for corn. What happens to that government payment?
Goes down.
Goes down. And in fact, if the demand is so great that it's up here, what happens to that government program?
They stop paying.
It disappears. All on its own. Without an act of Congress, the whole policy just disappears under the target price program. With the subsidy, so if I leave it here, if the $2 subsidy is the policy, then all we're doing is we're going to drift this vertical distance going to drift over here. And the policy remains until there's an act of Congress that says, oh, I think we should change that. Oh, we can't do that, farmers. The farmers are going to be mad, right? They're going to be outraged that you're taking away their subsidy of $2. Whereas if the policy in the first place was set up as a deficiency payment, the farmer's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. We're being covered. We're getting at least what our desired outcome. So it's all in the framing of the policy. In one set of circumstances, we get identical result. But if we think more dynamically about it, how it changes over time, it's much different. And the deficiency payment program is the one that's been in place for a long time in agriculture. All right, we will pick up there next time. That about wraps up chapter 6 stuff. So 5 and 6 together. Come up and see me after class if you guys got additional clarifications you want. Oh, the other thing, I'll probably bring this up later. This backside has a worksheet that kind of explains all of that. That was the other sheet for this.